the news update on Aneke TV. First, the headlines. NATO announces plan to strengthen Europe's eastern flank. Former Chief Justice sworn in as Nepal's interim Prime Minister. Former Ivory Coast First Lady joins presidential race. Patients stranded in hospitals as resident doctors begin strike. I'm Deborah Nwakoba with the news of the details. NATO has announced a new initiative to bolster the security of its Eastern Europe members in the wake of Russia's violation of Polish airspace. The announcement comes after multiple Russian drones crossed into Poland on Wednesday, prompting NATO to send fighter jets to shoot them down and underlining long-held concerns about Russia's three-year war in neighboring Ukraine expanding. Denmark, France and Germany have joined a new mission to bolster the military alliance's eastern flank. Others are expected to take part later. It came as the Kremlin said that peace talks with Kyiv were on pause. Now to Asia. Nepal's former Supreme Court Chief Justice Sushila Kaki has become the country's interim prime minister after deadly anti-corruption protests ousted the government. Ms. Kaki, 73, was sworn in during a brief ceremony, becoming the first woman to lead the impoverished Himalayan nation after a deal was reached with the protest leaders. More than 50 people were killed in clashes with riot police during this week's mass protest, sparked by a ban on social media platforms. The ban was lifted on Monday, but by then protests had swelled into a mass movement. Angry crowds set fire to parliament and government buildings in the capital, forcing Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli to resign. Now from Africa, former Ivory Coast First Lady Simone Gbagbo has gone from hiding in a bunker in an attempt to avoid arrest to defiantly announcing she will run for president. In an extraordinary comeback, the controversial 76-year-old was this week surprisingly allowed to contest October's election, calling on supporters to help build a new nation. For years, Gbagbo walked side by side with her ex-husband Laurent and was considered to be the power behind his throne. Now, with a criminal conviction and a divorce behind her, she takes center stage as a presidential candidate in her own right. This news update is coming to you live from Aneke TV. Remember, you can follow us on all social media feeds on Facebook, Instagram, X and TikTok, and here on YouTube, all at Aneke TV. Now a quick reminder of major highlights in the news. NATO announces plan to strengthen Europe's eastern flank. Former Chief Justice sworn in as Nepal's interim Prime Minister. Former Ivory Coast First Lady joins presidential race. And up ahead, patients stranded in hospitals as resident doctors begin strike. We'll be right back shortly.
Hello, I'm Deborah Nwakoba. I am Chidimike Mede.
I am Uche Osai.
I'm Chiwendo Ifeonwankwe.
My name is Obobina Samson.
Please keep watching Aneke TV, or you can visit us on our socials like Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, or YouTube, all at Aneke TV.
This is Aneke TV. We move with the world.
We now bring you stories from Nigeria. Nigerians living in South Africa has raised alarm over a fresh wave of xenophobic threats by an anti-immigrant group known as Operation Dudula. Leaders of Nigerian communities are calling for urgent diplomatic intervention following reports of attacks and harassment allegedly spearheaded by the group, which has been accused of blocking foreigners from accessing public hospitals. The outcry comes amid sustained harassment that began earlier this year, fueling fears of another round of xenophobic violence. In a viral video clip seen, one of the group leaders was captured ordering foreigners out of a public hospital. Now to Rivers. The sole administrator of Rivers State, retired Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas, has declared that the mandate handed to him by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been sufficiently achieved, following the successful restoration of democratic governance of the grassroots level. Vice Admiral Ibas, in a statement signed by the Senior Special Advisor, Media, River State Government, Hector Ibiokwoba, made the declaration at Government House, Port Harcourt. He spoke while receiving a report of the recently concluded local government elections from the River State Independent Electoral Commission, RSIEC. Vice Admiral Ibas said that the peaceful conduct of the poll and the subsequent swearing-in of democratically elected chairmen and councillors across all 23 local government areas marks the direct fulfillment of the presidential directive issued to him on March 18, 2025. Meanwhile, the River State government has announced the commencement of transition from emergency rule to democratic governance. As part of the activities, an interdenominational church Thanksgiving service will be held tomorrow at the Economical Center at Nimawa Road, Port Harcourt. A statement by the Secretary to the State Government, SSG, Professor Ibibia Loki Warika, invited all critical stakeholders for the service. Now from Rivers, we move to Oyo State. At least 4 shops were raised at Saki Motor Park, opposite Trans Amusement Park, Bodija area in the Ibadan North local government area of Oyo State yesterday. Eyewitnesses stated that the fire incident occurred around 2 a.m. was as a result of embers unattended after the close of the shop in the night, ravaging 4 out of 11 shops before the arrival of firefighters. Investigations further revealed that no casualty was recorded. Property and goods worth millions of naira were touched by the inferno. The state chairman of fire service, Maruf Akinwande, who confirmed the incident in Ibadan, the state capital, said the fire incident was reported at 2:07 a.m. Now to industrial crisis. There was chaos in many public hospitals around the country yesterday as members of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, NAD, commenced a 5-day nationwide warning strike over alleged government's failure to meet their demands. The few consultants who reported for duties were overwhelmed by the number of patients seeking attention, some critical. Hundreds of patients were stranded as the few health workers available were stretched to their limits. The patients expressed frustration at the slow pace of service. Some admitted they had little choice but to wait, given the strike's impact on most other facilities. In some other public hospitals, services were skeletal. An example is the Kuba General Hospital in Abuja, which looked like a ghost town yesterday. Still talking health, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control has intercepted counterfeit malaria medicines valued at over 1.2 billion naira in Lagos. The agency announced this in a statement via its official X handle that its operatives raided a warehouse in the Ilasa-Oshodi area where 277 cartons of the fake Malamud Fort drugs were discovered. According to NAFDAC, the unregistered products were concealed in cartons labeled as diclofenac, potassium, 50 mg and illegally imported from Shaanxi Tianyuan pharmaceutical groups in China. The consignment was falsely declared as spare parts to evade detection. Now moving on, the Anambra State Police Command says it has launched a manhunt for assailants who attacked mourners during a burial rite of an 18-year-old boy in Ezi Village, Ogidi, Idemili North local government area of the state. It was gathered that the gunmen, suspected to be cultists, stormed the burial venue, killing no fewer than 4 persons and injuring about 15 others. Our correspondents gathered that some family members of the deceased and other mourners were conducting burial rites when the assailants stormed in the place and opened fire on them. In the meantime, the Benue State Police Command has arrested 3 suspected armed robbers and recovered 34 handsets, 3 HP laptops and 2 MP3 players from them. The command spokesperson, Udeme Edet, said this in a statement in Makurdi that the suspects were arrested during a stop-and-search operation. Now over to business news. The federal government has directed the management of Dangote Refinery and Petrochemical Company and the Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, NUPENG, to fully implement the September 9 agreement on workers' right to join a union of their choice. The directive followed the second intervention in 4 days by the Department of State Services, DSS, in the escalating face-off between the refinery and NUPENG. It was gathered that the order was issued at a meeting held at the DSS headquarters in Abuja. According to sources at the meeting, government officials expressed displeasure over reports that agents of the company were allegedly removing Nupeng stickers from trucks and granting access only to vehicles affiliated with the Direct Trucking Company Drivers Association (DTCDA), believed to have been sponsored by the refinery. Also in business, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State has announced plans for the issuance of a maiden 14.8 billion naira green bond and a 200 billion naira conventional bond, both under the state's 1 trillion naira debt and hybrid instrument issuance program. Speaking at an investor forum in Lagos, Governor Sanwo-Olu urged private sector investors to support his administration's infrastructure development drive, which aims to finance critical projects across the state. The governor assured stakeholders of Lagos' financial credibility, stressing that the state has the track record and capacity to deliver on key infrastructure projects if adequately funded. Now over to sports. Over 1,000 schools are expected to participate in the 2025 edition of the Zenith Bank Delta Principals Cup football competition, which kicks off on September 18. The 80th edition of the competition will be staged at St. Patrick College, Asaba, with Delta State Governor Sheriff Oborevowori scheduled to perform the official kickoff. Now over to entertainment. The atmosphere was electrifying at Echo Hotel and Suites, Lagos, as celebrity chef Hilda Bassi thrilled thousands of fans with another groundbreaking culinary feat. This time, she set a brand new Guinness World Record for cooking world's largest pot of Nigerian jollof rice. A first of its kind attempt was pulled a massive crowd of over 20,000 food lovers, celebrities and influencers. Still on entertainment, crime and broadcast journalist Cindy Onajite Atirene, popularly known as Najite, has been elected president of the TVC Women's Network, the internal empowerment platform of TVC Communications. The TVC Women's Network was established as part of TVC Communications' drive to provide women within the organization with a platform for professional development, mentorship, and community engagement. To end the news update, here are the main points. More NATO countries will move their troops and fighter jets eastwards after Poland accused Russia of an unprecedented drone incursion. Nepal's former Supreme Court Chief Justice Sushila Kaki has become the country's interim prime minister after deadly anti-corruption protests ousted the government. We also told you that there was chaos in many public hospitals around the country yesterday as members of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors (NARD) commenced a 5-day nationwide warning strike over alleged government's failure to meet their demands. That ends the news. For breaking news, eyes witness reports, please call 070-3043-7110 or visit our social media feeds on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, X, all at Aneke TV. I'm Deborah Nwaka Uba. Thank you for watching.
Hello, I'm Deborah Nwakoba. I am Chidimike Mede.
I am Uche Osai.
I'm Chinwendo Ifeonwankwe.
My name is Obina Samson.
Please keep watching Aneke TV, or you can visit us on our socials like Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, or YouTube, all at Aneke TV.
This is Aneke TV. We move with the world.
is a powerful symbol of authority, tradition, and chieftaincy. It signifies leadership, cultural identity, and a connection to the ancestors. The red cap is primarily worn by men who hold traditional titles such as Nze, Ozo, Ichie, Chief, Onyish. The number of eagle feathers on the cap can denote the wearer's status within the chieftaincy system. The red cap comes in different shapes, and each shape represents a particular hierarchy in the traditional institution in Igbo land.
I am Aneke.
I am Uche Osai.
I'm Chiwendo Ifeonwankwe.
My name is Obina Samson.
Please keep watching Aneke TV, or you can visit us on our socials like Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, or YouTube, all at Aneke TV.
This is Aneke TV. We move with the world.
There are two types of kola nut produced in Nigeria: kola nitida, otherwise called gworo, and widely eaten in northern part of Nigeria. Kola acuminata, also referred to as Igbo kola, is of local origin and occupies an important position in social, religious, and sacred ceremonies in Igbo society. It is seen as a vital and sacred fruit in Igbo land and serves as the major instrument of prayers connecting the ancestors. It cements discussions and also the fundamental bedrock of philosophy and proverbs. It is a symbol of welcome, unity, and peace. If kola nut contains one cotyledon, it is regarded as dump kola nut and thrown away. Kola nut with 4 cotyledons represents the 4 Igbo market days: Eke, Orie, Afo, and Nkwo. If kola nut contains more than 6 cotyledons, it signifies blessings and wealth, and it is celebrated. There is also another type of Igbo kola nut called Ojugo, which is referred to as the king of Igbo kola. The reproductive organ of the kola nut is referred to as the tongue, and it is removed after prayers and thrown to the spirit of the ancestors.
Ibai. Ekelemu. Ojo kwani heja gondo. Ndo ana toka. Onya na ana ke nyano na wo. Ibai adino. Ogologo ndo. Aruke. No doma. Odoma ibeje ne ndo anya. Na onye ngori ibeje ne ndo anya. Nelufuta muria. Imana na nsogbu. Ya olisebu wa na ekene. Chukwu okike. Onye ogologo ndụ na ogologo anya na-akwụdo n'ọchịchị, anyị na-ekene na-ayọ na-ekene maka tata, na-ayọ maka echi, maka na ọsọ maka eme echi anya amara. Na ihe adị ka echi, na echi anaghị agwụ agwụgwụ, na ihe ya adịla anyị mma. Ndị be anyị ọmọkwanye ihe ọzọ na anyị enye ndị ichie jupụtara anyị na-enwe nke
na mbụ ọja m na-asị ekekele ụwa na ọkwa ọja ekenekwa gị n'eluigwe na ala na-ekene gị n'urukpuru na kpakpando na-ekene gị n'ugwu na ndịna na-ekene gị maka ka onye si eme ka ekwe si akpụ ya ka onye si eme ka ọja si akpụ ya ihe a bụ Aneke TV.
Ibai. Ekele m. Ọjụ kwara ihe eji agọ ndụ. Ndụ a na-atọka. Onye anabara nke ya na ụlọ agwọ. Ibai adịnọ. Ogologo ndụ.
Hello, I'm Deborah Wakoba. I am Chidimike Mede.
I am Uche Osai.
I'm Chinwendo Ifeonwankwe.
My name is Obina Samson.
Please keep watching Aneke TV, or you can visit us on our socials like Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, or YouTube, all at Aneke TV.
This is Aneke TV. We move with the world.
Good morning, and thank you for boarding Aneke TV, the week in retrospect. I'm still your host, Uche Osai.
Yes, and I'm Deborah Wakoba, the savvy voice like the resounding cymbals with you on this voyage.
The week in retrospect will bring you up to date with news and newspaper headlines throughout the week.
Yes, first let's take a look at what we have on the headlines today from Punch, Vanguard, The Nation, and Guardian newspaper. And on the Nation newspaper today, we have refinery scandal, EFCC scales up to probe others, Kyari to report daily. And on the Punch headline, we have NSIB lied, we don't drink alcohol, smoke marijuana, indicted Air Peace co-pilot cabin crew. Now over to the Vanguard headline, how Nigeria spent 981.5 billion naira on 7 polls. And then on the Guardian headline, we have why Nigerians aren't impressed. Now back to the Nation headline, where it says refinery scandal, EFCC scales up to probe others, Kyari to report daily. And the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has asked Mele Kyari, former Group Chief Executive of Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC, to report daily at their Abuja headquarters.
All right, Debbie, you will recall that this headline made the news within the week as well, and then today is still in the front headlines of the Nation newspaper. That's a good one. You know, remember we did say that EFCC, Melaye submitting himself to EFCC to give account of his tenure, you understand, as NNPCL chairman. yes, the group managing director, that is good that he has submitted himself. Let him give account of his tenure. And then we cited that as an encouraging example for other public office holders, that once you're done with your tenure of office, you should be courageous enough to be able to give account of your stewardship. However, in the case of Melaye, you recall that this nation has coughed out about $2 billion for the maintenance, turnaround maintenance of our refineries. Talk about the Port Harcourt refinery, talk about the Warri refinery, and that of Kaduna refinery as well. So, at the end of the day, having shared out the humongous amount of $2 billion US, and at the end of the day, these refineries are not working. Somebody has to be called to account. And we're happy that today, Melaye Kiraye is in EFCC giving account of his stewardship, how they spent this money. How I bet that after this period, that the $2 billion US that were sunk into these refineries did not produce 1 BPD of crude oil refined for the nation. Therefore, one should be happy seeing this headline that EFCC has told Melaye to report daily to EFCC so that they can thoroughly take account is giving his report of what transpired. At the end of the day, while we encourage EFCC, remember that our position is that this issue should not be politicized. Rather, they should be thorough in their investigation. If we see that there is an issue of a misappropriation or misapplication of this fund, then the nation should be told categorically what happened. These citizens who maintain needs to know. They need to know, and they need to know, like yesterday, how their money is being spent. Remember that at this point in time in this nation, we're saying that we are overtaxed, and there are more taxes coming. Therefore, every penny, every single penny has to be accounted for. And somebody held accountable where it seems that there is hanky-panky in the handling of our resources, of handling our fund. Therefore, we call on every public office holder to be bold, to be courageous enough to give account of their stewardship. No longer a time where you see a public office holder, when they leave office, they go and get perpetual court injunction, stopping the EFCC or ICPC or the government from probing their tenure. What are you hiding? So, in this case, I kudos to Melaye for submitting himself to that probe, for not going to hide away in 1 year in Dubai or somewhere, you understand, or in Malta or one of the Caribbean islands, hiding away from giving account of his tenure. And while EFCC is at it, like we did say, this should not be politicized. Yes. Thorough investigation should be carried on, and at the end of the day, whoever has done wrong should be brought to account. Yes, that's it.
Okay. Now, we are going to be going back to this week's newspaper headlines, and we are going to be starting from Monday, 8th September. And now from the Punch headline, it says, Union insists on strike, meets FG, orders today. And in the Guardian headline, National Grid faces 5.6 trillion naira revenue loss as premium customers exist. Now, in the Nation headlines, we have troop hits terrorists in nationwide crackdown. And lastly, in Vanguard, we have Dangote Nupeng face-off, FG moves to avert nationwide strike.
All right, this was the headline of the Vanguard on Monday. Yeah. And then we did do justice to this headline, you understand. However, you remember that as the news progresses, as events kept on progressing, we got to where the DSS had to intervene to, you understand, to mediate this issue after the Ministry of Labor and Employment failed to bring them to a reasonable agreement between Nupeng and Dangote, right? Remember, what is at stake here is that Nupeng is accusing the Dangote refinery of infringing on the rights of workers to unionize. That according to them, that according to the international law on labor and Nigerian constitution as well empowers every individual worker the right and the freedom to unionize. And in this case, they are accusing Dangote. You know, Dangote imported about 4,000 CNG trucks, and the, should I say the cousin, Savi Dantata, a relative to Dangote, who is in charge of MRS, is equally the one recruiting drivers for Dangote. And the information is that they were meant to sign an agreement not to join union, of which Nupeng frowned at and said that that's an infringement on to their right, or on their right, on freedom to what? Associate and unionize. And therefore went on strike to call Dangote's attention on this infringement. And the, like we did mention, the Ministry of Labor and Employment went into negotiation, tried to bring the wearing fashions to reach an agreement. At the first day, that broke down. There was no agreement reached, and the strike held on. You remember that when you pass through the street, you see that the tricycles and vehicles were lined up looking for where to get petroleum products. The activities in cities were beginning to grind to a halt, and then transportation fares started skyrocketing. Yes, on that day. But however, we did give kudos to the DSS for being able to bring the wearing fashions to agreement. However, this agreement seems to be fragile, because going forward, we'll still have information that this agreement, according to Nupeng, that Dangote Refinery is reneging from that agreement, and they are wanting to embark on another strike action. However, while we applaud the DSS for this time around not applying the Gestapo method that they are known for, that security forces are known for, when they wield into civil issues of labor demands, strike actions and all that. But this time around, they seem to have brought everybody to table. You know, like we do say, it is better to judge than to war, right? Then it seems that this time around they've been civil and agreement was reached. I bet the fact that we're seeing that it was a fragile agreement that was reached, and then this time around Nupeng is still wanting to go back to the strike that Dangote reneged on that. But we hope that this time around that these issues are resolved quickly, and that they don't embark on further strike, so that the citizens who are already beleaguered and in suffering should not experience another form of hardship. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now we'll be moving over to the Tuesday news headlines, September 9th. And on The Nation, it says, Edun, soaring revenue, cut in debt rise, economics profile. And in the Vanguard headline, it says, 2027, Jonathan's camp, PDP top shots wooing P2B. And in the Punch headline, it says, 2027, North rallies voters as South tops pre-registration list. And in the Guardian headlines, it says, how Japa vandals investor fatigue keep telecom services below par.
All right, let's take a look at either the Punch headline or the Vanguard, or we can some both at the same time. If we can take a look at the Punch, you know, here everything is all about the 2027 North rallies voters as South tops pre-registration exercise. You remember that the Aneke has started a pre-registration exercise, online registration, and yes, the results that are coming out shows that there were more activities down south, and when you narrow it in the south, you see that there were more activities in the southwest, Osun, Lagos, and co. The numbers there are so high, you understand? And then some people are beginning to attribute that to the by-elections, off-season elections that are happening around the area, and that will be coming up in Osun State in particular. However, in this headline, you will see that the North has gone to action to encourage their people to come out, register, because with this, it seems that the power of the voter being on a number of people that are registering this time around may want to tilt the power to elect towards, or what you call, you know, in Nigeria, we used to have the KK states that determine at the end of the day who emerges, because they give the volume, they give you that volume votes, you understand? So usually before 2023, whoever wins the KK state usually end up being the president-elect in a general election in Nigeria. However, with what is we're seeing, it seems that this power shift wants to tilt towards the south and southwest in particular this time around, and then the north have no other reason but to rally their people that you should go out, leave every other thing, go out, register, get involved, you understand, in order to maintain that negotiating power, that bargaining power, you understand, because where the vote, where you have that bulk vote, they seem to always be at the table where negotiations are being done, and they seem to have a bigger stake in determining the direction this country toes on election and policies like that, you understand. However, I must say that the bigger losers, if things remain as it is, as when this report was filed, that the biggest losers in this are the southeasterners. You understand? Because when you check the figures that are coming out, you will see states like Enugu, Abia State, and Ebonyi and all that recording below, very, very way below Enugu State. For example, you have 800 and Abia State less than 2,000, and then the likes like that. Despite the fact that even Anambra State, it will soon go into an off-season election, the numbers there too are not as competitive as one would expect with other states or region. So the call should be on Southeasterners that they should, in this circle, show apathy, because it's been known that the Easterners don't participate. And when you interview people, a number of reasons are adduced to why they give attitude. They talk about, yes, vote not counting, or perceived corruption and all that. However, we should insist and continue to give the call that people should come out and, you understand, participate. It is your civic responsibility. It is your right. Until you have your voter's card, you're able to elect somebody or be elected for, is your right. Until then, you cannot hold an elected official to account. But when you have your voter's card and you have the power to determine who goes into Lion Building, who goes into Aso Rock, then you can start to say that the person you elected is not delivering the dividends to which you elected such a person to office. So we should call on the Southeasterners to rise up. The Norths are doing this. And then there was one video, quite disheartening, though encouraging in some aspects, but it's disheartening in the sense that it takes the light of former governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, to come to Imo State in southeastern Nigeria to encourage people in a religious gathering to go out and register. Can't the Southeasterners be self-motivated and know that they have an equal stake to determine the direction of things, of electoral procedures in this country? So, while we call on the Southeasterners as well, we must point out the fact that Aneke has been warned or accused by opposition political parties that the data they are reeling seems to not be genuine, to which Aneke has been defending that is not nothing abnormal, that is been a trend, that is usually the case. However, some persons have equally called for an independent auditors to look that Aneke should be magnanimous enough to open their data for external auditors to go into their data, check how authentic the data they are reeling out is, and then until that confidence may erode their actions, their activities. We're still watching to see what Aneke will do as regards that.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we'll be taking a look at our paper on the 10th September. The Nation, DSS brokered truce, Nupeng strike threats. And then on the Punch headline, it says, doctors to decide on nationwide strike today. And on the Guardian headlines, we have FG under pressure as DMO blames FX global stocks for rising debt. And then Vanguard headline, we have world leaders envoys condemn Israel's attack on Qatar.
All right, let's just take a look at the Vanguard. World leaders envoys condemns Israel attack on Qatar. Yes, we remember that within the week, Israel embarked on what it called a precision strike in Qatar. right?
Yes.
That should be in Doha, in Qatar, targeting what they claim is a leading member of Hamas,
Yes.
you understand, residing in Qatar. Now, the world leaders, every other person is calling Israel out that what they've done, that they've infringed on the sovereignty, you understand, of that nation, of the nation of Qatar. You understand? I know in international rules, you're not to, you understand, encroach into anybody's territory without permission, encroach on anybody's sovereignty. What Israel have done is to violate the sovereignty of the nation, Qatar, in this instance. But they've insisted that this person is a non-terrorist, a non-leading terrorist, because Hamas has been designated as a terrorist organization.
Yep.
Remember that since October 7, the kidnap of Israelis, that the Hamas and Israelis have gone back and forth in. There have been fights, there has been negotiation, talk about hostage release and all that. And Israel is overrunning Gaza, taking over Gaza, until humanitarian organizations start crying out that the blockade in Gaza is causing untold human hardship in Gaza, right? And this time around, Israel not relenting, wanting to go all out, because according to Israel, they will stop at nothing to see that their hostages are released and that Hamas is decimated. Remember that in between the October 7 and this day, that Israel had hit a number of nations whom they see as being soft spots for Hamas terrorists, financiers, backers, and all that, trying to make sure that they do not have they don't have the capacity to be able to attack them again. Therefore, one will begin to look at this issue, because for me, the takeout here, the question I want to ask is, Hamas, Qatar, remember that Qatar has been like the big brother between Israel and Hamas. They've been the one bringing them at the negotiating table, try to solve this issue. Does it now mean that they knew that these people were domiciled in their territory and they kept mute about it? Is it that Qatar is aware of where these hostages are?
We never can tell.
No one can tell.
Yes.
But the issue is that at the end of the day, are they complicit in all this? These are the questions, despite the fact that world leaders are calling Israel out for embarking on that action that Israel described as a precision attack, targeting only that building where their perceived target resides. You know, from Israel's account, it was only one death. However, we saw reports from Qatar saying that 6 persons were killed, and then talk about the dangers of the surrounding buildings, the people around there as well. Israel had come out to tell us that this attack, you understand, was well orchestrated, that it was a precision attack led by the IDF and Shin Bet. Remember that Shin Bet is an intelligent arm of the IDF.
Yeah.
You understand, leading this battle. However, I must point out the fact that some analysts in Nigeria and some persons in Nigeria have been pushing towards Nigeria taking a particular side on this matter, right? Apart from giving a humanitarian grant, we did mention during the week that Nigeria, as far as Nigeria is concerned, Nigeria is a non-allied state.
Yes.
That's our state policy, right? And till this moment, we've not changed that. Our state policy has been of that non-alliance. We can, yes, be able to be at the negotiating table, help to bring about peace when the need arises, but we don't align with any nation on any issue. Our outlook, our broader outlook is Africa. Do you understand?
Yes.
Our broader outlook is Africa. We are pro-Africa to see that Africa, yes, is Africa in approach and all that, but generally we're a non-aligned state. So for those calling for Nigeria to take a decisive stand on this issue, no, this is our state policy, and until we change that, our stand as a nation is still in order. However, that, you know, remember that injustice to one is injustice to all, and wherever human life is involved, and then we should be able to sympathetic because it's human lives involved as well.
Yeah.
But Nigeria beyond that cannot be involved.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, we'll be going on a short break and we'll be right back.
Hello, I'm I'm Debra Wakoba. I am Chidimike Mede.
I am Uche Osai.
I'm Chiwendo Ifeonwankwe.
My name is Obina Samson.
Please keep watching Aneke TV, or you can visit us on our socials like Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, or YouTube, all at Aneke TV.
This is Aneke TV. We move with the world.
Hello, I'm Debra Wakoba. I am Chidimike Mede.
I am Uche Osai.
I'm Chiwendo Ifeonwankwe.
My name is Obina Samson.
Please keep watching Aneke TV, or you can visit us on our socials like Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, or YouTube, all at Aneke TV.
This is Aneke TV. We move with the world.
Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching The Week in Retrospect.
Yes, and we're moving over to our Thursday paper on the 11th of September. And in the Vanguard, we have 2027 micro-zoning stirs tension in PDP. And in the Guardian headline, we have FG boasts 80% 2024 budget execution, cites procurement, hurdles for 2025. And in the Nation, we have EFCC quizzes carry over spending on refineries, others. And then lastly in the Punch, we have 2027 police INEC move against early campaigns.
All right, let's start with the Vanguard. Let's take a look at the Vanguard newspaper first. Then, all right, in Vanguard, 2027 microzone stirs tension in PDP. Yes, this is bound to happen, right? You know, the PDP has zoned their presidential tickets to the southeast, and following that, with the coming up of their convention, their NEC, 103 NEC, where it will be decided before the convention, where they will microzone every other positions. You're bound to begin to see issues like this on the headline, because there is, as we are meant to understand at this time, there is horse trading amongst politicians. Everybody is trying to galvanize each other and reassemble where their interest lies, which region gets what, and which politician gets this or that. So we are bound to see headlines like this time around. It's the nature of politicians, you know, they say it's a game of interest, and politicians will always go after their interests, you know. They've been described as people who put their money where their mouth is. And when you see issues like, when you see issues of positioning, zoning, micro-zoning, you will begin to see skirmishes, because interest, you see that interest begin to clash, interest begin to align, you begin to see alignment and realignment, right? So in the PDP now is expected. However, you remember that some persons have come out to call up PDP that they should not microzone position. That as far as they are concerned, that position in PDP should be for the best candidate. That is not time to microzone. They shouldn't microzone positions. In fact, some persons from some groups from Osun and Lagos have come out to say no, they don't believe in microzoning, and they have their own candidates they prefer that they think is competent, you understand, enough to be the chairman of PDP, so that as far as they are concerned, the issue of microzoning should not come up at all. That should not be an issue in this, in the appointment or electing of party officials this time around. You understand? So, like I did mention, every region is beginning to every region is beginning to, you understand, canvass for where their interest lies, and these are decisions that will be taken at the 103rd NEC meeting that will be held in the month of October, around 15th of October, you understand, where they will decide before the convention about who gets what, which region gets what. Having zoned the presidencies to the south, okay, where does our chairman come from? These are the arrangements that, you understand, you need to make microzone positions. Having zoned the bigger one to a particular region, you begin to microzone, you understand, so that there won't be clashes, that at the end of the day, whatever clashes that will arise from this will be managed and will be very minimal, right? So like I did mention, those of them from Lagos and Oshun are beginning to back Benga Oluwapo Hashim. As for them, it's no longer about zoning, microzoning, that he is competent, that they should be talking about a competent capacity, one who will be able to hold the party, lead the party, and be able to secure victory for the party. That the issue of microzoning shouldn't be involved this time around. And then it may interest you to know that we are beginning to see candidates start jostling for position of chairmanship of the PDP. You begin to hear names of a member of the G5, like former governor of Benue State, former governor Autumn, understand, being mentioned as being one of those wanting to be the chairman of the PDP. Now, this becomes very interesting. One begins to ask, is Samuel Autumn's candidacy or name being banded, you understand, a representation of the interest of the G5? Because he is a key member of the G5. You know that the G5, that's the group, the Wike group. Yes, the Wike group that has been holding the PDP by the jugular, right? Now, if that's their position, good. One may say, okay, this is what their interest is. And then if I'm to ask further, what is this interest? If one begins to see that the interest of Sam Autumn, of former governor of Benue State, is the interest of the G5, for example, then one will begin to ask a bigger question. What is their end play? What is their motive? Why would one ask these questions? You will remember that it's been a running issue that the head or the presumed head of the G5, you know, I always call them the Ashebi group.
Yes.
So the known head of this group, or the most outspoken member of this group, former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, had come up publicly to declare and say that he would stop at nothing to see that the APC president will be re-elected in 2027. That he will make sure that he is re-elected and will fight everything that stands on the way of being re-elected. Then, trying to make the connection, if Samuel Autumn's interest is that of G5 and they all agree, that means Samuel Autumn, right, being in the fray, being a chairman, one would say that it be a calculated attempt, like being mentioned earlier. Some have accused the PDP for zoning their ticket to the south as a means at the end of the day to support President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Then if one is able to link this, you begin to give credence to such an allusion. You understand that that's the intent of those who zone the PDP presidential ticket to the south. Good. Now, we cannot be able to separate Autumn from this interest, because if at the end of the day, the position of Wike is that Tinubu must emerge, and here you see Autumn going to be the chairman of PDP, it therefore means that they want to work for the election of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. However, this is not a proven fact yet. You understand, it's still a hypothesis, but as things continue to unfold, we will know the direction these things are tilting towards. Then, other names that have been mentioned, you understand, in this issue, for gunning for or being positioned for the position of chairmanship of the PDP is former governor of Kano State, former governor Malam Shekaro, you understand, of Kano State. His name has been mentioned as a veritable candidate to be the chairman of PDP. However, until this issue is resolved and they agree, you understand, or either during their neck, will know where the microzone, all these things, you will continue to see skirmishes like this coming up. Remember that this is one of the issues that led to the distinction, the different disaffection in PDP. Different factions, some had to decamp from PDP and go to other groups. So the issue of microzoning should be well managed. Yeah. Then, talking about the other headline, is it the Nation?
Okay. The Nation.
We talked about the Punch, right? So
Yes.
we'll go to the Vanguard now.
About the EFCC quizzes carry overspending on refineries.
Yes, EFCC quizzing carry. You understand? We cannot overflog this issue. In fact, this should be celebrated in Nigeria today. Celebrated for two things. One, that EFCC seems to be doing its job this time around, but that should not be the celebration. The celebration is that Melekri submitted himself to this investigation. We didn't hear that EFCC went to his home in the night, burst the door, arrested him, or that they have to involve Interpol to go and repatriate him from one Caribbean island somewhere, where he's hiding somewhere or anything. But he walked to EFCC office, submitted himself to investigation, right? So having submitted himself to investigation, another reason why this will be well celebrated is that you know the amount that's involved. This is about $2 billion US of taxpayers' money that was coughed out for the turnaround maintenance of the refineries. If these refineries are working, if they are working and working well, we won't be talking about Pengasing Dangote at this time around. In fact, there will be an alternative and there will be competition. Remember how much we were buying fuel before now, and now a liter of fuel is about 900 and something. You understand? So if there were competition, I'm meant to believe that the price will be a little less than this, if not more lesser than it is today. However, let Melekri give an account of what happened. How this $2 billion US was used, right? Then, now think of it. When you remove $2 billion from the $20 billion that Dangote used to build his own refinery, you have $18 billion US. Meaning that if this nation had come together, you understand, gathered this money, we could have a refinery as a nation as big as that, if that's our interest. However, if these three refineries that are in question were, they were turned around and are working, they have the capacity to give us over, let's say, over 300 BPD of crude refined for the nation, right? But at the end of the day, we'll suck in $2 billion US of taxpayers' money, and these refineries are still not working. In fact, at a point, we were told that these refineries were working. One time then, they came out to tell us it was working marginally. And then, today, at a point, this government wanted to sell off this thing, and people started shouting that they want to sell it to their cronies and all that. And then, they now went back into seeing what will be done about it. Now, that's why I told you that this headline cannot be over-celebrated, because this is a public asset due to taxpayers' money, and then taxpayers' money was shelled out for its turnaround maintenance. Now we need to know what happened to this money. Was it a question of misapplication of fund, or was it an issue of misappropriation? So until Melekri is done giving account, we wouldn't know what actually happened. But I believe that we'll get clarity on this matter once he's done giving EFCC accounts. And then we know we've always called on EFCC to be very transparent and not to politicize this issue, because this nation would want to know. This is a country of people who feel burdened with heavy taxing, right? And then at the end of the day, is it the taxpayers' money that will just go fizzle that way from the pages of newspaper? It shouldn't. In fact, the people should know what happened. And at the end of the day, if somebody is found culpable, let the person be prosecuted to deter others.
Yep.
And then while we're celebrating this, is that we use it as a yardstick or a platform to call on other public office holders to be ready to give account of their tenure in office.
Yes.
Though being elected or appointed, you should be courageous enough that at the expiration of your tenure, at the expiration of your office, be able to give account of your tenure. There's nothing wrong to be able to give an account. You know, this is a nation where we've witnessed somebody will be stepping down from an office and the person goes to court, collaborates with the judiciary and get a perpetual injunction restricting every agency of government and government from coming to question them to give account of their tenure in office. An office that we are elected for, an office you held in trust for the masses, and you don't want to give an account of how you handled this trust. This is a very big issue in this nation, and with this, we use it as a yardstick to reach out to everybody that once you're done with your office, in fact, do not wait to be called.
Yes.
Carry your file. Get it ready. In fact, if you're transparent enough, if you're honest enough, as soon as you're stepping down, bundle your files, hand them over. Yes, and when you're called, step forward, come and give an account. Like we did see the issue with former governor of Sokoto State, Alhaji Tambuwa. Do you understand? It took how many years after he left office for EFCC to start calling him, inviting him to come and give account for heavy withdrawal of social amount, and he has gone to give clarification on going back, was celebrated and was telling us that how would EFCC make such a frivolous allegation? How can that what the amount being banded is not even up to their allocation in many years, right? So that's why we call on EFCC not to politicize issues like this, matters like this. They should be forthright so that people will take them serious, right? And then, speaking to accountability, EFCC need to be accountable as well. They need to be seen to not only be doing their job, but to have done their job and done it well. Because at the end of the day, they are equally being paid with taxpayers' money, right? And then I do know quite well that talking about these refineries that we'll talk about, that they are not working and all that, they are populated with staff who earn their money before you receive your own salary. Yes, still being paid from taxpayers' money as well. So this place is either it works or government takes a study, because I do know quite well from the era of from 1999, the era of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, they intended privatizing this asset because, like I do mention, I'm part of those who believe that government has no business being in business. When you look at all the agencies, all the enterprises that government manages, at the end of the day, you will begin to hear stories like this. There's always questions of mismanagement being involved. So for me, sell it off, invite private investors, either go into private partnership or sell it off. Do you understand? Use the money, invest in other things for the nation. Then let the people derive the benefits from these institutions. Let them work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Now I'll be moving over to our Friday newspaper headline, 12th of September. And in the Punch, it says, Nupeng, Dangote clash as tanker drivers deal collapses. And in the Guardian headline, it reads, Open defecation crisis worsens, threatens 2030 sanitation targets. And in the Vanguard headline, World Cup ex-Eagles demand NFF board quits if Nigeria fails to qualify. And in the Nation, it says, Aneke clears ADA, 13 others to apply for registration as parties.
All right, let's start with this headline. Let's start with the Nation.
Okay.
Yes. Aneke clears ADA, 13 others to apply for registration as parties. I'll start by saying that this is a welcome development.
Okay.
At the end of the day, it seems that there may be light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay.
Yes. You know, many people have argued, why would the light be at the end of the tunnel while not the light being in the center of, at the beginning of the tunnel? But EFCC with this, I think, is encouraging us that despite the journey, we should be expectant that at the end of the day, there may be light at the end of the tunnel.
And
Aneke, yes. You know, they've been called out severally for refusing to register political parties, though they've come out to say that they are overwhelmed with application, that they have application, and in most cases you have clashes of these applications with similar names. You understand? And they did publish that. We did interpret this to mean that they don't want the registration of new political parties. But with this ADA being given the green light with other 13 political parties is a very welcome development, right? That in a time like this, where the nation seems to be gravitating towards a one-party system, that will have more political parties coming on board. And one good thing with that is that then it gives people the opportunity to choose. There's the privilege of choosing from any particular party of your choice. We are no longer limited to APC, PDP, Labour, AD. Mention these ones.
There are different parties, yes.
Yes, now, even though we have almost, we have many parties already registered, more should come on board. Liberalize the place, let there be options, so that government, for example, if they have any special interest, will not be able to cripple political parties. That you won't be able to predict that Ms. Deborah Nwakoba will be using so and so platform to run. Let there be platforms that when Ms. Deborah wants to run, there are various vehicles for her
and
to.
let that platform be also known, like
Yes, yes, awareness will be there, but let there be enough platform that when the policy of that political party aligns with individual citizens' ideology, then you can use that vehicle to run for an office. You won't be, limited to just a few platforms. Yeah. Imagine what would have happened in 2023 if platforms like Labour were not registered when they came on board, and we are only limited to APC, PDP, and let's say the former CPC or AMPP. Yeah. Do you understand? We won't be able to see the likes of the P2B and the obedient movement being able to use the platform of Labour to, you understand, to the social engineering that we witnessed in that election. Remember that 2023 election has reshaped electioneering in Nigeria. A lot of hypotheses were crashed. A lot of beliefs were crashed in that election, and a new precedent was set. Precedent that the power of citizens can change any situation. Okay. So that's why we're happy that INEC, at the end of the day, has given a nod to ADA and 13 others to begin to facilitate the process of turning their movement into a registered political party in the nation. You understand? So, talking about that, it opens up the space for us. It opens up the space for the citizens. You have a right, you have options to choose from. And that's a very welcome development. Nigeria should never in any case be allowed to tilt towards a one-party state. Yes. That's just the point. Okay. So, what INEC has done is good for democracy, is good for the citizens, and is good for our polity. At the end of the day, for this one, I would say kudos to INEC. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we'll be taking a deeper look into our today's paper, Saturday, 13th September 2025, and then it's coming from starting from the Punch headlines that says NSIB lied, we don't drink alcohol, smoke marijuana, and Nation says refinery scandal, EFCC scales up probe, others carry to report daily. And in the Guardian headline says why Nigerians aren't impressed, and then lastly Vanguard says how Nigeria spent 981.5 billion naira on 7 polls.
All right. A whole lot of headlines that one may want to, really talk about, you understand? Because almost all the issues in this headline are issues that shape this nation, and they are issues that will need a deeper insight on to really understand. You understand? We should be able to extract these issues, let them bear for every Nigerian to know. Starting with the last newspaper that you mentioned, talking about the funding, you understand, that has gone into our Vanguard, elections.
How Nigerians spent 981.5 billion.
981.5 billion naira. I must tell you, Deborah, this is over $4 billion US that we're looking at. This is almost $5 billion US that we are looking at that has been spent in pools. That's starting from, let's say, 1991.
Yeah.
You understand? Until, from the return to democracy in 1991 to date, we spent this homogeneous amount on electioneering pools. In fact, this one may be